guys for doing this. Thank you guys for agreeing to do this after your long days, I'm sure. Um, so I guess I just wanted to start with some questions about how you guys got to. You guys both just graduated, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So what were both of your majors, Landon, if you want to start?
I was a public relations and advertising major.
Mhm.
I was a finance major with a minor in accounting.
Gotcha. Okay, so then you guys were, I take you guys were friends. You guys were associated with each other. How'd you guys know each other in college then?
So we met freshman year, and we actually lived together for 2 years straight.
Oh, okay.
Once in Wrigleyville, and then the next year across the street from the Stew.
Oh,
So
okay.
Mike and I have been very close for a few years now.
Nice. And so where'd this idea come from? Where'd the idea for In Their 20s come from? Because you guys started about 2 months ago. Where'd the idea kind of spark from?
Of course, Michael, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah. So when COVID originally hit, me and Landon, we ended up just kind of having like a brainstorming session. Like, here we are. We have, kind of like more time. I feel like you feel like you have more time when you're at home, and we're like, what can we do? What could we possibly do? Like start some sort of company that could help other people. And what we noticed is, a lot of our friends, they were seeing either like offers withdrawn, offers being pushed out for the jobs that they had received for post-graduation or just summer internships. And we're like, maybe there's an idea that we could take these influential people that we speak to, because Landon and I both have mentors that help guide us throughout college. We're like, maybe we could take these amazing ideas that they have and give it to everyone. And that's kind of how In Their 20s was sparked.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Michael and I, we both had like a lot of internships while in college, and we benefited a lot from internships. I had 10, Michael had a handful of internships, and we of course like excelled in our classrooms. We loved, the professors at DePaulia, but we felt it was always nice to be able to bring something into the classroom and then also bring stuff out. So through these internships, we, as Michael mentioned, had opportunities to meet with so many amazing people who really helped guide us and give us this influential advice. And not always hearing about the success stories, but more or less, sometimes hearing about the mistakes that people made in their 20s or the risks that people took in their 20s. To Michael and I, that's huge. We call those cheat codes, like knowing, like, and hearing, like, okay, wow, these people did that. Now I don't have to copy it exactly, but I can at least, kind of shape my life into a way where I can be more successful, so I can actually absorb what these people were doing and then make better decisions for my future.
Yeah. So your show's all about it's all about advice for people in their 20s, all about things for people who are, it's probably mainly out of college, right? That's main demographic. But for you guys, did you guys go through a lot of changes in college? Maybe did you start with a different major and move on to something else? Did you guys have like a kind of path that advice that you heard some advice one day that kind of maybe changed your mind about something, made you want to pursue something different in college? Did either of you guys have an experience like that?
I mean, when I came to college, I came in actually as a business administration. So, I mean, business administration is kind of like you don't really know what area you want to go into. And I met with a professor just at orientation. He was like, you really want to focus. The business administration major is not really going to take you where you want to be. He said, so what are you interested in? And I was like, I kind of like math. I like numbers. So that's where like him right there, he kind of guided my whole college career. Cause right then I was like, okay, I'll do finance. But I always had a passion for business because prior to coming to college, I'd actually started my own company already. Where we took wasted food from restaurants, composted it, and sold the compost to like landscaping companies, nurseries. So I did have like a passion for business already, but he helped me solidify where I should be.
And for me, from California originally, I moved to 2,000 miles away from home to attend DePaul. I knew nobody here. I had nothing on my resume. I was actually really involved in theater back in high school. So I was originally going to DePaul for theater school, kind of at a quarter life crisis, and decided to switch it up and, try something new. But some of the best advice I had as a student with no experience on my resume, moving to a new city, was companies hire storytellers, meaning you need to make experiences for yourself, get out there, learn, grow, pick up new skills, and then be able to analyze and interpret what you learned. So as a theater kid, really was able to connect really strong with that, because I think as humans, we're natural storytellers. Companies want to know what the hell you've done and what you can bring to our company before they hire you. And that's why Michael and I have really enjoyed creating stories. We're telling the stories of other people. If you think about it, Michael and I were the middlemen, trying to connect students and young professionals who have so many questions about the uncertainty in their lives, confusion. We're connecting them with these amazing stories from these very influential people who have made a lot of experiences, mistakes, taken a lot of risks in their lives, and they want to be able to share that with everybody. So that's what Michael and I were doing. We're sharing stories.
And I guess that leads into my next question about guests and how you guys land these guests. So some of these people you may have started with, they were, people that you already knew as like kind of mentors, or some of them were connections through internships, I assume, something like that. But how did you approach people with this idea that, it's very digestible, 15, 20 minutes. It's not, these people are all very busy people who have very busy jobs, but you're able to get them to talk in a environment, a very quick environment that's very laid back and very interesting. How do you approach them to get them on board with these interviews?
Well, before getting anybody else on board, this really took Michael and I having to understand what we want to do, purpose of In Their 20s, and our mission. And we got very, very specific with that. The different mediums that we wanted to work with, social platforms, the types of guests that we'd want to have. What do we even characterize an influential person as being? So Michael and I, before even reaching out to people, spent a lot of time really figuring that out. And then from there, we, of course, as you mentioned, started with the people within our network. Networks are equity. It's so important to have a network. It's so important to have connections because they can really pay off in the future. And just, the people that the people that you get to meet, you continue those relationships with people, and you never know how you may collaborate with them in the future. So again, Michael and I, once we, really honed down on our mission, why we were doing this, and found our purpose, we started looking for specific influential people. And when we say influential people, we characterize those people as, different people within an industry that are killing it, doing really well, and have a story to tell. So we don't care who you are, what you look like, where you're at. Anybody can be influential. And again, we started with people who, we've maybe had personal close relationships with, mentors, professors, people who have inspired Michael and I in our past. And then from there, we saw this very beautiful thing happen where the influential people we were interviewing then were so proud to share it with their own networks. So then they share it with their networks. Now we have people come to us. So it's almost like 7 degrees of separation type thing, where we are just really proud of what we've been able to build here so far. But I mean, since day one, Michael and I have been very, very specific in what we want to accomplish. But I mean, that's why we've had, people like Beto O'Rourke. We've had opportunities to work with him. We've had, the Wendy's spokesperson who has been in a lot of commercials with Wendy's, and used to also be a head chef at McDonald's. We have former coach of the Chicago Bulls that we're going to be working with in the future. We have one of the first Black women in history to raise $2.3 million. A secure token offering is what it's called for a startup. We have one of the most famous urologists in the country who has been in a bunch of Netflix documentaries, including The Game Changers. So, I mean, just, unique, interesting people. But I mean, it just feels really good to have people come to us. People come to us wanting to share their stories to benefit the next generation.
Yeah, it just seems like it's this wealth of knowledge that's just in these, I could watch I could watch this entire thing in a few hours, and I would get all this important, big knowledge. Is that kind of why you have these, shorter format, 18, 20-minute videos where you ask a couple questions that are just open-ended, and you just kind of let them tell their story, and just kind of you learn from them just as much as the audience learns as well, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, we wanted to do definitely a short, we discussed a lot about the format in which we should release the videos. And as you can see from our channel, we originally started with really short clips, 3-4 minutes. And it kind of, made it so not everyone was seeing like the whole picture. So that's when we moved into more of releasing the whole interview, but still keeping the interview within 15 to maybe 25 minutes max, both in to save time for the busy person we're interviewing. You know, they don't have an hour really to interview with us, but also because people our age are like, are we really going to watch a 60-minute interview about somebody talking about their career? Probably not. You know, a 20-minute video is definitely more digestible. And yeah, we actually learn a lot from the interviews that we do because, as Landon said, that head chef at McDonald's, you know, he was able to create a brand for himself, and that's kind of like what we're trying to do. So even throughout that whole interview, I'm soaking in all that information. You know, I want to learn more. You know, and even from Dawn Dixon, the other one Landon was talking about, she had secured that over $1 million in a secure token offering. Dawn, like, she's very, she said, like, you need to reach out to everyone and anyone. And the worst thing you'll get is a no. And that no is just a driver for you to like come back and say like, this is what I've done now, you know, because not everyone's necessarily going to say no. They might say not at this time. And, you know, that's just that not at this time is a driver to really show them what you got. So.
That was actually the one I had just watched before I got back on this call. It was a really great interview. And so do you guys, I also noticed something that you guys have a lot of diversity of thought, diversity of different kinds of like industries. There's something for anyone kind of coming out of communications or technology or strictly business, strictly finance, something like that. How much do you guys stress this diversity when you're picking guests and when you're even scheduling when these interviews go out?
It's very important to us. Look at this, you know, country we live in. We're a melting pot. So it's very important that we are sharing, you know, a diverse group of leaders, influential people who have different backgrounds, are doing, you know, different things now, different companies, different roles, different industries. It's really important we share that because we understand we have a very diverse audience. Something that, you know, Michael and I are really trying to do here is be able to scale mentorship and provide influential advice for people who, you know, a lot of the times don't even have access to that. So, you know, we're working with currently a nonprofit in Chicago as well, UCAN Chicago, to help try and get these videos to inspire and influence their children and the teens that they work with. But, you know, of course, it goes beyond that. We need to, it's our duty as storytellers to be able to share multiple stories, stories that are, you know, different and very inspiring. The root of it is that they are inspirational. But who's telling it? Of course, we always try and change that.
So, you guys, something I was noticing was like the different kinds of mindsets as well that some of these people approach. Like they're the very, very entrepreneurial mindset that some of these people have. And I think when people are in, you know, late high school, maybe even early college, they think of business as this like entrepreneurial, like, you know, make it or break it, work 18-hour days in your garage, building an app, trying to make something. But in reality, like, there's all these different types of paths that you can take where, you know, you're working the 9 to 5, but it's like a very great, and that's why I love the interview about Southwest. Sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the guy, but the interview with Southwest, like when you're in like late high school, you're not dreaming of like, I'm going to work at Southwest one day. That's not like your great dream, but you also like want to have something successful like that. And you don't really get that perspective sometimes from people who have been working in industries for 20 years. So how important is it for you to get people that perspective and that kind of idea of making the corporate lifestyle digestible?
Well, first off, thank you for doing your research. And really appreciate you watching our videos. And no, I mean, you just hit on the dot. I mean, it's really important that we have these diverse stories. I mean, we have a video with the chief of staff of DePaulia University coming out next week. And he preaches the importance of, you know, a college education. And then we also have people who, you know, talk about the importance of, you know, entrepreneurship and like how that was their true education, you know, getting out, taking risks, making mistakes, where, I mean, they'd prefer to create a startup versus going to grad school. We have people like Chris Johnson of Southwest. He's been at that company for 27 years, and he's very devoted to Southwest Airlines. We also have people who, have been with companies for a year or two. So my point is, it's just nice to hear different perspectives. It's like, yes, Michael and I, we're the interviewers, we're the moderators, but we're not just sharing one story. We're sharing so many different stories, but we truthfully believe that, if no matter where you're at in your life right now, who you are, what you're interested in, if you have an opportunity to hear just a diverse group of stories like this, you're prepared for your future. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to prepare people for their futures.
And yeah, we're really trying to grab that almost like a unique perspective per person we interview. And we've actually been really lucky because we haven't had one person come on and say, oh, my story's just like that guy.
Yeah.
Every single story's been super unique. And, at first when we interviewed Chris Johnson, he had been working at Southwest for 27 years. And we're like, it's going to be interesting to see how people our age react to that because, in my opinion, a lot of people our age think, how can you stay at a company that long? And our ideal is kind of like, I need to jump around. I need to try different things. But he kind of shows the testament of, pushing yourself within a company and you can still get to where you want to be as an end goal. And it's interesting because they all have different perspectives. Some are very, as you said, like entrepreneurial, while others, are very kind of like
Philosophical.
like philosophical. And like one of my favorites is Tomer Yoga. He's talking about like it's less about your career and more about bringing joy into your life, right? It's like more happiness. Like how can this career bring me joy? Yeah. So it's all different kinds of perspectives.
And so when you guys a lot of internships, 10 internships, that sounds like crazy. Like, were you doing that like, were you holding down like 2 at the same time? Were you doing them like, all throughout the summer, throughout all 4 years? Like how were you kind of working that in your schedule?
Started winter quarter of freshman year. And yeah, I've had about like 1 per quarter, maybe a few quarters off, but all throughout the summers as well, and equaled 10. And yeah, of course, like while still taking on a full course load and involved in different things also on campus. But that's another example where people are always asking, what did I gain from these internships? And yeah, a lot of marketable skills, don't get me wrong, and a lot of day-to-day projects I worked on were amazing, but at the root of it, it was really the inspiration and the conversations I've had with all these influential people, the different CEOs that I've worked with, the creators, the innovators. I loved that so much and gained a lot from it. Michael, the same, had a lot of internships and gained a lot from that because it's very important. And that's something that we want to deliver to other people, especially now. At a time when a lot of internships aren't hiring. We still wanted to be able to replicate that advice, the mentorship to the best that we can. And, it's been cool. We even have some avid viewers of our videos who have reached out to the influential people that we've interviewed just to say, hi, I saw you on Michael and Landon's video series. I'd love to connect with you and just have you in my network because you are a very influential person. And that is networking. That's the beauty of it. And that's the same thing as if I were attending an on-campus event of someone speaking. Yeah, sure, maybe if I don't get to shake their hand afterwards, but if I'm going on to LinkedIn and still saying, I saw you here, can I connect with you? You never know how much that relationship or that connection can do for you.
And then, Michael, you were in, I read your guys' about pages too, you were in a fraternity as well. You served as a finance chair. How important is that fraternity experience in terms of like networking and, what kind of social skills did you gain from that in order to push yourself into marketing?
Yeah, so in the fraternity, I would say it benefited me a lot. My ability to meet with a group of guys and kind of get to know everybody, that's kind of how it is in the real world too. You need to get to know everybody and see, learn about their past because you can learn a lot from somebody's past, and that's kind of the whole idea of in their 20s. But just getting out there, and also maybe this isn't a person you necessarily would hang out with, right? Or you would talk to, But now, you're a part of this group, so you're kind of forced to talk to them. But then it kind of creates this relationship of like, oh, this person's actually pretty cool. And oh, wait, they have a job in this industry that I want to go into.
Right.
And that's how I got my job right now.
Mm-hmm.
A year ago, or I guess I've been working here for 2 years now. 2 years ago, an alumni who had graduated was like, hey, if anyone's interested in this position, we're doing this. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm a finance major. It was a job in valuations. I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing. And, here I am today. So, yeah, I think using a fraternity, or not even necessarily a fraternity, but a social group or clubs within DePaul and other universities, it's a huge asset,
Mhm. And so you guys unfortunately graduated like online with this like really weird, like you guys got thrown into this like this kind of weird cycle, this weird gauntlet. Like I'm only about to be a sophomore, so I have time for this all to recover before I graduate. But you guys kind of got thrown into this weird job market where people were getting like, unemployed very quickly from this. And how important is this kind of information for people to have like this kind of building block so that when things start going weird in the market politically, something like that, they can kind of bounce back from it. They can kind of adapt. They can kind of move through it. What did like you're kind of living the experience of like being a young person in your 20s, well, asking people for advice about being a young person in your 20s. How does this all like kind of work for you, especially right now? It was a long-winded question, but like how does it kind of work for you guys right now?
No, that's a great question. And, we'll say that this content is just very, very important. And I know Michael's touched on this a few times during this interview and saying that, we're even growing and learning so much from these interviews that we have. Michael and I were fortunate enough to, before the pandemic, know where we were going during our post-grad departure from college. But we realized that so many people did not have that opportunity. So we, of course, towards the beginning of the pandemic, were finding ways to help our, our friends, peers, classmates, whether it was connecting them with people in our network, or, like helping sift through a bunch of job applications to help our friends and our peers. That's really how we came up with this idea. I mean, it was solving a unique problem. And that is, just a lot of people, even after the pandemic, will continue to question, what they need to be doing during this very pivotal moment in their lives, 20s. So we wanted to be able to give people the tools to help create a better future. I mean, there's no way to predict the future. There's only ways to analyze the past, and of course, have that become a part of you so then you can pay closer attention to what you're doing in the present. So I'll say that again, no way to look into the future, but if we hear stories about what people did in the past, then today, you and I, we can look at ourselves in the present and be able to create a better future for ourselves. So we really just want to be able to share inspirational stories that can help people become more successful.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Landon. And it's so interesting because some of our viewers have actually like reached out to us and said like, oh, I really connected with this interview. And we even had one person say, after watching our interview with Michelle Hollis, and how she started out as a bartender who just decided to pack up and move to California. He's like, after losing his job during the pandemic as well, he's like, maybe this is my time. Maybe I get up and I like move where I really want to, So it's just really, it's amazing to see these people like talk to us and say like, this really helped me. And that's ultimately our goal. You might not connect with every one of our interviews, but if you connect with one, that's all that matters.
I'll piggyback off of that. That has been the best feeling. People actually coming to us to say that they've been inspired by these videos. It's a feeling like none other, and it's the same feeling that Michael and I were praying we'd be able to get from this. And that it's magical, and we just feel like there's more that can be done. So we are going to continue to make these videos, continue to share unique stories, and continue to inspire, and not just people in their 20s. Also, we have a producer that we're working with. He's a 19-year-old student at DePaulia University. And he has a interesting quote on our website. I won't repeat it now because I don't want to butcher it, but it's pretty much explaining how these videos really help him as a 19-year-old know what he should be doing in his 20s. And then on the flip end of that, we even have people older than their 20s, 30s, 40s that have become avid watchers and viewers of our videos and our podcast, just because as one of our influential people, Tomer, said, it's never really too late to find that joy, do new things, and really figure out who you are. And of course, yeah, a lot of that is supposed to happen in the 20s, but I mean, we're just happy to inspire anybody at this point with these videos.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that's all the questions I had. Thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. Let me talk to you guys about this. Best of luck with the future of it all. Thank you so much.